Democracy is a necessary condition for good government. Good governance is a pillar of democracy, and corruption undermines that. The increased incidence of proven or real corruption will be the focus of this week in 60 Minutes for tonight's episode. My name is Roodi Balgobin, I'm your host, and for the next 60 minutes or so, myself and Juan here will be looking at how corruption undermines good governance in Guyana.
I would like to welcome all the viewers of MTV and also our viewers that are streaming with us live on Facebook. This week in 60 Minutes will be, as the name suggests, a weekly program where we will address topical issues that affect our people, their development, and this week we will be focusing on corruption. Because corruption is, and a lot of Guyanese have seen how corruption eats away at opportunities for development, in particular, opportunities for our young people. And myself and Steve, both being in the youth category, we have seen what corruption is doing in our society today. And we are grateful for the opportunity to discuss this issue tonight in studio. So we have seen, Steve, that the government has had a lot of ongoing corruption and projects that are being labeled corrupt as of recent. Yeah. And it's important for us to highlight this because contrasting to 2015, where we had the government labeling themselves as the savior in terms of corruption, labeling themselves as the saviors from the PPP's alleged corruption, we're now seeing a backtrack to all of these things that they would have mentioned in 2015. And I would have been following that campaign very, very closely. But now we see that ministers and their husbands, all of them are involved in corruption. Yeah. And this is an issue we really need to put out there.
Yeah, definitely. What we also like to highlight here is the failure of the government and the broken promises. For example, one that is very close to the youths here in Guyana is the fact that the government, before the elections, they promised free education all the way to the tertiary level.
Yes,
and what they did immediately after taking government, they just went and put VAT on private education.
That was it, yes.
Contrary to their promise.
That's exactly what I was highlighting before.
Yeah.
And now we see also one of the things that they did was to completely destroy the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And that was something that I thought was very, very strange for a government that had young people supporting them. They completely destroyed the ministry. And of course, they put a director in place that came many years after, but they completely destroyed that ministry. When we talk about government and having young people involved in the hierarchy of government, where do we have youths playing an active part in this government? It's almost non-existent. We saw that they would have hired a lot of elderly people, and we don't have anything against elderly people, but where is the representation of young people in the government? Where is the representation of young people in the parliament? We're not seeing these things occurring, and this is what we will be highlighting to you, our viewers and our followers.
Interestingly enough, on that point where you said about the government hiring young people, they're not reflective in the government, is the fact that President Granger dismissed two very prominent former judges.
Yes.
And then a week after, he went and unilaterally appointed the chairman of GCOM, who is older than both of these gentlemen, and he cited that the reason for dismissing the two gentlemen who were working on constitutional bodies was their age. And they were unable to function.
Yes. So it was contradicting, basically.
Okay, so One, we will continue this discussion after our ad.
Please stay tuned.
APNU AFC promised more jobs and a good life. Instead, we lost 30,000 jobs. Taxes went up, people are less safe, and cost of living skyrocketed. Now, after 4 years of neglect and corruption, the APNU AFC gang are coming with more empty promises, only cause they need you now. We are smart. Fool me once, shame on you. This time, we will not be fooled by your sneaky fake news. APNU promises. We vote in PPPC to get Guyana working again.
Yeah, welcome back, viewers. One of the many broken promises has been about transparency and accountability and crackdown on corruption in the government. I mean, government corruption for the first time in contemporary Guyanese history has been cited in the U.S. International Narcotic Control Strategy Report in 2018. You viewers can see it there on your screens. Yeah, this is for the first time ever in a report of this magnitude,
Wow.
Guyana
And-
they have used the word specifically government corruption.
And once
in the
again,
report.
we can pull back into the point that in 2015, the things that this government was saying, you know, it's almost unbelievable now
Yeah.
to assess their spoken words in 2015, and now we're in 2019, their actions towards what they would have said before. So it's basically a backpedaling to what they would have promised the people
Yes.
in this country.
Interestingly enough, the report for 2019 has stated tax evasions and real estate linkages to money laundering here in
yes.
Guyana. So we are further deteriorating in these reports while the government claims that they're doing so well in the international stages.
Yes.
We have hard evidence here, Juan, to show that, you know, that is not the case here. And they've been
Interesting, yes.
feeding us these lies over and over and over, and the ministers go and they regurgitate these lies, and we're not sure what really is going on
Well-
until we get these reports, and it's a completely different scenario from what we're being fed.
Yeah, well, one thing, Steve, is that I find that this government really cannot defend its record. I remember or recall, I think it was 2017 or 2018, that they would have given themselves an A grade,
Yes.
which I thought was
Yes.
very ridiculous. You know, to assess yourself and give yourself an A grade while all these things are occurring in the country, mass protests and persons being in the, sugar workers being displaced and all the rest of it. So we have also to show here that we have the evidence that this government has been labeled in this report as being corrupt.
Exactly.
Right, or government corruption being existent in our country. This week, however, the two main corruption issues surround the deplorable conflict of interest involving two high-profile ministers, and we will be addressing this issue as we go forward now.
There's two, as you guys may be aware, there's two ministers in two mega ministries controlling multi-million-dollar ministries, to be precise. So the first issue that we look at is the conflict of interest involving Minister Cathy Hughes.
Yeah.
As you know, that Minister Cathy Hughes, her company, Video Mega Productions,
Yeah.
has been hired by the Department of Energy,
yes.
to produce radio ads,
Yeah.
television ads, and brochures and
Yeah.
public awareness campaign,
Yeah,
basically
to manage the
for
whole-
this
the whole
ministry.
campaign, yeah.
And Minister Hughes, up to recently, if you were to check the website
Yeah.
for this company,
Yeah.
she's still listed as the owner
The
director.
managing director.
Managing director
of the
there
company.
at the company.
Yeah.
So we must note that after the video went viral,
Yes.
basically the Ministry of Telecommunication responded. Minister Cathy Hughes said, "I was completely unaware of the award of the contract to Video Mega Productions. In May 2015, upon my assumption of the role of Minister of Tourism, I relinquished any involvement in the day-to-day running of Video Mega Production." Interestingly enough, she did not went on to say whether she relinquished any ties with the company. And what's happening is that she is just relinquished day-to-day activities. So the minister is directly benefiting
Yes.
from these
Yeah,
contracts.
There's still so many questions that we have not had answers to, but we want to take a look at a video that PPP Executive Gail Teixeira did only yesterday, and this should give you some more insight as to what is occurring with this minister. Please stay tuned to the video clip.
Good afternoon, everyone. And just to let you know that we have learnt that the Department of Energy has issued a contract to Video Mega Productions for a multi-million-dollar contract to do brochures, TV and radio ads for that department. What is particularly interesting, people may not remember, that Video Mega Productions is owned by Minister of Telecommunications, Mrs. Cathy Hughes. And there are other members of the AFC, such as Beverly Alert, who is part of that company, and Russell Lancaster. So here's a company being given a major contract, multi-million dollars, to a minister who is in charge of that company. Whether the company was awarded by tender, one does not know. However, this is very clear again, just like the case of Minister Valerie Patterson Yearwood with regards to the Central Housing and Planning Authority contract to her husband, in which her husband was given major contracts with the housing program. and in which it's alleged that she also was collecting money for him, as well as another relative who's working in the same department. So that we have more and more now this combination of incestual almost relations within the government, where family members and extended family members are benefiting and profiting from taxpayers' money, in violation in some cases of the procurement laws of our country, in other cases by undermining and tampering with the process. And so Video Mega Productions, by the way, was also given major contracts by the APNU AFC during the 2015 elections to produce campaign material for them. So one has to wonder whether at this point the contract for Video Mega Productions relates to campaign materials that will be used by the APNU AFC with regards to elections. So we don't know what is the nature of this, but what we do know very clearly is that, one, the Minister of Telecommunication owns the company. On their website she is listed as the Managing Director, even though she's been a minister for 4 years. And Beverly Alert, who is also, I think, on a number of boards, and who is an AFC leader. So that we have, as I said, this combination of family members and partisan connections exploiting and abusing and profiteering from the revenues of this country.
One of the pillars of democracy or good governance is actually transparency. And as pointed out by Ms. Gail Teixeira, the response from Minister Cathy Hughes only came after the exposure from the opposition. And this is something that we have to look at when we're talking about good governance. Why is it only when you are exposed, then there's justification and reasoning? In order to have good governance, there needs to be an approach, whereas you lay it down to allow people to know what is actually occurring in the country. And I think it's highly suspicious that only after the issue or the matter was released, then you hurry to scramble to make a press statement on the matter.
You know, we could always argue that the minister is being untruthful, but just in 2017 at the Caribbean Broadcasting Union conference in Bahamas, Minister Hughes was there promoting her company and touting her company.
That was in 2017.
That's just 2017. And as you pointed out rightfully, as soon as this scandal was exposed here in 2019, you hear, oh, I no longer have any ties with this company. I'm not doing any work with this company or anything of the sort. So what you're seeing there on your screen right now is from the company's website, which I mentioned earlier, photo of Cathy Hughes and her position as managing director. Interestingly, is just 30 minutes after the response from Minister Cathy Hughes, the very vague statement, which I read an excerpt earlier for you guys. Russell Lancaster, producer with the company, issued another statement saying that, oh, Mr. Hughes is no longer working here and stuff like that. But what is important for us here is to know that has she given up her post as managing director? She just said that she's no longer dealing with the day-to-day running of the... But that does not...
Key to note is that she said the day-to-day operations of the company. She never said that, okay, I'm no longer affiliated with the company, I'm no longer signing checks, I'm no longer basically dealing with the... I'm no longer holding meetings. Is she promoting the company? These are questions again that are left to be answered, I think. And for a media company not to update their website, they can say, oh, I dropped the ball on this one. I didn't update the website, but they're a media company.
Yes, exactly.
So how can they not update their own website? You know, and they're doing work like that for other companies. It's strange. I must say, it's very, very strange.
Well, the statement from Mr. Russell Lancaster has actually, worsened the concern about the use of taxpayers' monies. And according to Mr. Russell Lancaster from Department of Energy, asked for sample work. 3 60-second TV public service advertisement to be specific, and they said they paid a total of 832,000 Guyana dollars. You know, one wonders that for sample work we're paying 832,000 Guyana dollars. So
Yeah.
how much are we paying for actual work?
Yeah, I mean, Steve, the sample work should not cost so much.
Exactly,
From my
definitely.
perspective, I know you're a bit into the media stuff
Yeah.
and so on, and I would do voice
Sample work
recording.
is always free in the media,
Oh,
sorry. You
come
can
on.
ask anyone.
Yeah, I mean this figure is a bit ridiculous to be generous to them.
Yeah.
So I think that if we're looking at corruption, we're looking at good governance. You know, we need to have answers to these questions. And I think that this figure, some may see it as being meager, but this is taxpayers' dollars we're talking about here. We have to spend taxpayers' dollars responsibly. There needs to be accountability for every single cent that is spent on when it comes to taxpayers' dollars, because these are monies that people are working for, that people are contributing to the country for. And we can't just go spending the money willy-nilly. We need to ensure that we are accountable with our spending in government. We need to ensure that we are accountable.
Yeah, interestingly, what we'll have here
Yeah.
is Mr. Lancaster's statement is in direct conflict with Minister
Yeah.
Hughes. I'll just say
That too, yes.
another excerpt is Minister Hughes said, I have been informed that the contract was for the production of 3 60-second television public service announcement.
Yeah.
The value of the contract is $832,200 Ghana dollars. But Mr. Lancaster is claiming that it's for sample work, and it
Sample
was
work, yes.
$832,200. And he makes
No
no
mention
mention
of
of
the
any
contract.
contract
No,
of any
did
sort.
not make
So
mention of it.
again, we need to know, is there a contract? What is the sum? What process did the Department of Energy use? Was it competitive bidding? Were they pre-qualified? Was it advertised?
That's right.
Invitation for bids? Was Video Mega Production engaged because the company is owned by the cabinet minister? That is very important.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No one ever saw anything that the Department of Energy was looking for a company
That's right.
to do
And
anything
a key
about it.
function of the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board should be to investigate whether these things are occurring, because they have the responsibility to ensure that certain procurement and procurement procedures are being adhered to. And we're seeing again here that I would say that this was a sole source that occurred here, right? And why weren't other media companies given the opportunity to send in their sample work?
Definitely.
Right? Because it should have been that several companies submit sample work and then you choose the best.
Exactly.
And then you make a contract with the
best that was chosen, yeah.
according to the evaluation criteria, of course, because
Exactly.
price is a determinant factor, but there are also other factors that you might be looking for. So I think that this project was not done the way that it should have been done, according to good governance and according to
an investigation
normal-
need to be launched into this immediately.
Yes, I think so too. I have to agree.
Yeah. So we'll now move to the second issue, which will deal with the conflict of interest involving Minister Yearwood, the Minister
Yes.
of Housing. So Juan?
Yeah, I think it must also be said that Guyanese are already aware of the other minister's conflict of interest with respect to her husband's work in the oil and gas sector. I'm just gonna quickly talk about a bit more about Cathy Hughes, because we would have seen that involving Mr. Nigel Hughes, he also opened a company that is dealing now with oil executives. So this is not the first sign that Minister Cathy Hughes has gotten herself involved in, the first debacle. You know, having a husband that is opening a company, and you're a cabinet minister, you have access to cabinet secrets. You know, it begs the question as to what is really going on with that, with her ministry and with Cathy Hughes and herself.
Yeah.
Anyhow, moving on to
moving
on to Minister Yearwood. You know, she has Godfrey Yearwood, who is the husband of Minister Valerie Adams Yearwood, has been granted at least one contract that we know about to construct houses for the Central Housing and Planning Authority. The minister's husband receiving a contract from an agency she had oversight of would be seen as a serious conflict of interest. So we saw that this has been exposed because the opposition leader was in receipt of several letters that were written to him. Sorry, not written to him, but he had access to it.
Yeah.
It was written to President Granger,
Yes.
requesting payment for contract for works that this guy would have done. I think he was living in Victoria,
Yeah.
yes. So he brought this forward to the opposition leader because he was disgruntled, not being paid for work that he would have done for Mr. Yearwood. But so not only is the minister, the minister's husband being given work from this agency, but he's not paying. He's not paying his workers for the work that they would have done for him. So I'm seeing two things there. Number one, I'm seeing a conflict of interest, and number two, I'm seeing bad management in terms of not taking care of these people. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, interestingly enough, the media tried to get some clarity from the minister concerning this incident. And instead of me telling you, let's just have a look at it. We have a video there.
The minister does not is not engaged in issuance of contracts. The management and the board of directors. Anything to that effect, speak to them.
But Minister, you have oversight of the ministry.
Do you think it's a conflict of interest?
Let me go and declare.
Do you think it's a conflict of interest?
Would you respond to the conflict of interest statement at least?
Excuse me.
As you can see there, the minister, the media was trying to get from the minister clarity on the issue and what really is going on. I mean, how is it that her husband got contracts from a ministry that she has oversight over? And they were also trying to find out whether the gentleman that was subcontracted, whether he would be paid or not. And as you can see in the video is that the minister, her security guard, are inserting themselves between her and the media, and she's trying to dodge questions from the media. Again, lack of accountability. They don't want to be scrutinized.
The transparency was
no
not
transparency
there with this issue. You know, even the CEO of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, he was also questioned by the media. His name is Leland Saul. And he said that the issuance of contracts to Godfrey Yearwood, the husband of Housing Minister Valerie Adams Yearwood, should be reviewed, since a conflict of interest does exist. So even a professional that is working in that authority, he's seeing the conflict of interest that is there also. So these are things that Guyanese really need to pay attention to. You know, I really think so.
So definitely some of the things that we need clarity on that the media was trying to get from the minister is, what is the sum of the contract? First of all, what is the sum of the contract? How many contracts did he receive? Is it just the one contract? Is it more than one? Was the process used for these contracts? Is it competitive bidding, or did they just sole source? Again, you know this government has a serious issue with just sole sourcing contract. They claim that the PPP did it, but that is not true. They did select competitive bidding first and all of that.
Correct.
So moving on, while on the same thing, is that we have seen that they haven't completed any infrastructural work on any housing scheme or any house lots that the PP would have left already or have done anyone new. So we have places like Zeeborg on the west coast where the PPP started to develop a housing scheme, and then shortly after the May 2015 elections, we all know what happened. And not a single thing has been done there by this government or anything of the sort.
I would say in contrast, the PPP has made a commitment that yearly 8,000 to 10,000 house lots will be developed yearly. I have to say that word twice because this is a commitment that has come out to the party for itself, that it's made a commitment to the Guyanese people that between 8,000 to 10,000 house lots will be created or developed yearly under their administration. And you know, this is not a vague promise like the one we got from this government. You know, the PPP has a proven record with regards to delivering on its promises.
Definitely.
This promise was made after it was costed and sources of funding already identified. So it's not just a promise that, you know, we're saying this to get votes, or we're saying this so people would like us, but the estimates, the costing, the project estimation, everything was already done on this to get this scale or to get this estimation done. So this promise that is coming from the party is one that we can actually look forward to, unlike, you know, what we would have seen from this government and their promises that it would have made the Guyanese people.
As I would have mentioned on another forum, is that, especially to the youths, that when it comes time to voting, don't just listen to these lofty promises that we heard in 2015. As I pointed out earlier in the show, you know, they've all been broken now, and we are left without any answers. You look at the track record. I would urge every youth to look at the track record of the party.
It's important to do
it's very important to look at the track record and then make your decision. We're all smart people. We know we can do the analysis and stuff like that. So what we have is that the PPP have given Guyanese a glimpse of their manifesto.
Yes.
We have it up there on the screen. I'm not sure whether you guys can read it or not, but we'll just go through a few things quickly that the PPP are promising for the upcoming elections. So, what the very first thing is to create 50,000 jobs in the first 5 years. We already know that we have lost 30,000 jobs, so we're going to get that back, 50,000 jobs in the first 5 years. Assist small businesses through the implementation of programs to help small businesses grow by providing advice, small grants, loans, and training for workers. Women entrepreneurship will receive special attention. Deliver 8 to 10,000 new house lots per year, as you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Implement a program for affordable financing for home ownership, very important to young people and those young professionals. Deliver quality health care and end drug shortages. We have a serious problem with drug shortages right now if you go anywhere in the regions. So, improving the quality of and access to education at every level, including offering 20,000 persons online university education. Implementing measures to expand the capability and increase the effectiveness of the security forces so that people can once again feel protected in their homes and the streets and in their workplace.
Yes, Steve, and just to go back to point number 6 about providing online university education, we have so many professionals in the diaspora that are professors, lecturers, they have all the masters and the PhDs. So I think the party now has a vision to incorporate and utilize the skills of those professionals that we have in the diaspora, also here in Ghana, but more so in the diaspora. So when you set up an online university, you can have your job and you can study in the evenings and you can still access the portal, university's portal. You can study, have access to all the reading materials and all the rest of it. So the party is actually taking its vision into the future. It's no longer you're just gonna have to go into a classroom and read all the notes and take your exams and so on. But the party is going to utilize the skills of the people in the diaspora, which has been a topic that has been, emanating in our social spheres and so on and so forth. So I think that this point in particular, offering 20,000 persons access to online university education, I am especially very, very grateful for that, especially persons who have issues with transportation and all the rest of it. So other promises from or glimpses from this manifesto include creating conditions for our young people to prosper, realize their dreams, and even to involve them in all levels of government. I said this when I started the program, that we need to have young people more incorporated into our governance systems, whether it's the parliament, whether it's the government itself, the executive. They need to be able to be in a position to make decisions that affect them, because young people are the majority and the absolute majority in this country. So we need to ensure we're looking into the interests of our young people. Another point is to ensure better working conditions and remuneration for teachers, healthcare workers, and other public servants. It's usually said that the PPP is a party for public servants. Also, to improve infrastructure. And when the PPP left office, there were several infrastructure programs that were around the country, a lot of them which were finished by this administration, but was a PPP project. We're talking about the airport. Don't want to get in too much into that because there's a lot of misgivings with that project that they would have finished. But there were several projects that the PPP would have initiated, and the PPP has already begun the process of developing more projects into the future.
Okay, so we'll continue this discussion with our guests in just a bit. We have 2 guests here tonight for you guys, so we'll see you in a few.
Okay.
APNU AFC promised more jobs and a good life. Instead, we lost 30,000 jobs. Taxes went up, people are less safe, and cost of living skyrocketed. Now, after 4 years of neglect and corruption, the APNU AFC gang are coming with more empty promises, only cause they need you now. We are smart. Fool me once, shame on you. This time, we will not be fooled by your sneaky fake news APNU promises. We vote in PPPC to get Guyana working again. APNU AFC promised more jobs and a good life. Instead, we lost 30,000 jobs. Taxes went up, people are less safe, and cost of living skyrocketed. Now, after 4 years of neglect and corruption, the APNU AFC gang are coming with more empty promises, only cause they need you now. We are smart. Fool me once, shame on you. This time, we will not be fooled by your sneaky fake news, APNU promises. We vote in PPPC to get Guyana working again. APNU AFC promised more jobs and a good life. Instead, we lost 30,000 jobs. Taxes went up. People are less safe and cost of living skyrocketed. Now, after 4 years of neglect and corruption, the APNU AFC gang are coming with more empty promises, only cause they need you now. We are smart. Fool me once, shame on you. This time, we will not be fooled by your sneaky fake news, APNU promises. We vote in PPPC to get Guyana working again.
Thanks for staying with us. Tonight to discuss how corruption undermines good governance are PPPC parliamentarians, Mr. Vikram Bharat and Bishop Juan Edghill. We're very happy to have you on the program tonight, gentlemen.
Yeah, very to have both of you guys here. So, Mr. Edghill, can you please tell the viewers here in layman's terms, how is it that corruption within the APNUFC government is undermining good governance in Guyana?
Greetings to all of our viewers and listeners. This afternoon I had the pleasure of listening to a Facebook post of an APNU AFC supporter, declared supporter, who said, we voted for you. Yeah. But this nonsense about the PPP did it and now you're doing it, don't bring that to us. Now, that's a good place to start. Corruption is a cancer that eats away at development. For example, the drug barn in Sussex Street, where they rented for $12.5 million a month, where we spent $300 million to store condoms and lubricants. That $300 million could have delivered a secondary school to a community that badly needs a secondary school. Yes. It could have delivered 4 health centers to communities that people have to travel from one place to another place to that health center. So every time money is stolen, siphoned off, or people are enriched by these deals that are not above board, development is impeded and goods and services that could have gone to the people are not given to them. So I just give that as an example.
Okay, we also have here with us young, vibrant member of parliament, Mr. Vikram Bharat. Vic, can you give us some examples of, in simple terms for the viewers here, what is it that you believe is corruption, how it affects our democracy and good governance?
Thank you, Rudy. Good evening to our viewers. Let me say that I'm happy to be here on this program this evening as we continue to discuss corruption within the AP and UAFC government and how it is eroding the very fabric of our society, more so the lives and the livelihood of our people. As Bishop would have mentioned, that indeed corruption and misuse and mismanagement of state funds definitely harm the progress in our country. Yes. It definitely harms the lives and the livelihood of our people. It impedes prosperity or progress within our country because it is money that could have been used for good purposes. And we know in Guyana there are so many needs and so many promises that were made by the AP and UFC government, or I should say failed promises. And this very money that is being siphoned off or being misused or used with a lack of vision mostly, could have been very well used to enhance the lives of Guyanese.
Oh, interestingly, you mentioned and you started talking about monies there. So you have seen the 2 recent scandals involving the 2 ministers with conflict of interest, namely Minister Yearwood, who is the Minister of Housing, and Minister Cathy Hughes, who is no stranger to any scandals, as you, the viewers, may know. So what are your views on these 2 scandals, Vic?
I'm happy that you mentioned that the minister is no stranger to these type of activities, because One can look back to the Amila Falls project, which was condemned heavily by the AP and UFC government, in which the very minister and her husband was involved in a multi-million-dollar contract. In they actually had a company that was part of the program. And then if you look not too far with the sidewalk cafe lease, that was leased, I think it was leased to the very person who they rented a drug bond from, Mr. Singh. And we know the extent of the corruption within the drug bond deal. But when you look at these two particular issues that has been recently revealed, it shows that we are no longer in the realm of allegations of corruptions. We have actually seen that there are corruption. This is bona fide. This can be proven that indeed the Minister of Telecommunication is the owner of that company that was given a contract by the Department of Energy, Ministry of Presidency. And then the other one with the Minister of Housing. How can you say that you have no knowledge that your husband has a contract with your ministry?
How are you running your ministry?
And how are you running your ministry? Then I saw a response from her stating that the contract was awarded to him before they got married. So I would like to ask the Honorable Minister if that marriage was an arranged marriage. Because I'm certain that they would have knew each other long before that. Long before that. And coincidentally, that company started, I think it was in November 2015. 2015, just after they would have took government. So we have moved away from allegations, and we are seeing now the corruption that is happening or that is taking place within the AP and UFC government.
Yeah, Mr. Edghill, you would like to add to that?
Yes. You see, the issue about good governance is not that your family must not get work. So we need to make that very clear. Once people are qualified, once people are skilled and they follow process, they must be able to get work. So we are not saying that the minister's husband or anybody's company must not get work. But what is required as a pillar of good governance is declaring. Now, if you have an interest in a particular company and you're bidding for a contract or whatever, you need to declare that. I think I heard a little earlier before we came in that this whole matter about both ministers is only known in the public because the leader of the opposition brought it out. There was no declaration that I am the owner of Video Mega Production and we are bidding for contracts or whatever the case is, and I would not like to influence any matter to do with that, or my husband is a building contractor. But to make the matters worse is that even when they are found out, these kinds of unbelievable explanations that are being offered, it's as if the Guyanese people don't deserve to know the truth. And the lies, the tangled web of deceit that emanates from this AP and UAFC government, it's troubling. I wonder, what are we teaching our children? What are we teaching our young people? And this example that is before us glaringly this week, tonight, as we sit here, demands the resignation or the dismissal of both ministers. And until President Granger acts against anyone, he is also a part of the cesspool.
Well, being in his position and being the president, he's the leader of the government, I would say. So what role does the Integrity Commission play in this regard? Because we've seen that the Integrity Commission has released a report, but what role can the Integrity Commission play in this regard when it comes to?
I'm sure you're aware that after 2015 election, it took me probably about 3 years, probably about 3 years for that commission to actually be given life, given an office, and started to operate or be operational, staffed and otherwise. One could also recall that we had put forward a motion in the National Assembly for for all of us, MPs, ministers, even former
yeah.
ministers of
Yeah,
government, to
that's right,
declare,
yes, yeah,
to
declare
make public
assets,
declaration
yeah.
of their assets, and this, in fact, the motion was shut down. We weren't even
Yes.
given an opportunity
Yeah.
to debate the motion.
Yeah, we
but
debated
vote
it.
for it.
We debated it and they voted against it.
And voted against it.
They debated it and voted. As a matter of fact, they made amendments. The Honorable Raphael Trotman on the floor amended the motion to almost change the entire purpose of the motion. And when I attempted to withdraw it, saying that we're not going to go ahead, the Speaker said it was too late, and then they voted the motion down. So it was clear that they don't want public declarations of what is going on as it relates to their assets and liabilities.
And it comes back to the failed promises of the AP and UAFC, because I can still see banners and placards around the cities and around Guyana with good governance, job for young people, and end of blackouts. And these are all failed promises. It shows that they haven't lived up to these things. They haven't lived up for sure to good governance. And if you should look at the PVP track record in comparison to a mere 3.5, 4 years, our record for 23 years is definitely way above the AP and UAFC. I'm not saying that there was no corruption within the People's Progressive Party administration in 23 years. But when you look at 23 years in comparison to 3.5, 4 years, it is not something that you can even compare. The magnitude and the type of corruption that is taking place today.
It is state-sponsored, state-sanctioned, state-operated, and benefiting officials of the state.
Interestingly enough, I saw the Director of Public Information, Imran Khan. He listed about 6 things and said that, oh, these are massive corruption scandals under the PPP. Just 6. And we have today over 60 plus scandals in just 3.5 years that the AP and UFC have racked up. And as we are continuing to see that, there are probably many, many more hidden under the carpet. If it wasn't for this contractor who haven't received any payments, we would have never known that the minister's husband is receiving contracts from her ministry.
But not only is her husband receiving contracts from her ministry, she is also the geographical member of parliament for Region 10. She answers in the parliament for matters of a financial nature in Region 10, and her husband is getting contracts in Region 10, of which she is the minister that oversees the regional administration.
You know, technically, if you look at this particular issue, Minister Yearwood is actually a part owner of the company because they're married legal. 50% of all the earnings would definitely go to her.
The same as
I don't know, maybe they have joint bank accounts and maybe all of the proceeds go there. So it's government money from contracts that goes into her account too, her account.
Yeah, it's the same with Minister Katius, who says she's no longer controlled with the day-to-day running of the business, but she's still a director. She still receives parts of the profits.
You know, Steve, you spoke about the 60 odd corruptions that we can count so far, and the opposition leader exposing. It seems as though it's only the PPP has been exposing these corrupt acts over and over. One can recall the signing bonus, the ExxonMobil signing bonus, only a year and a half afterwards. After we started questioning, the People's Progressive Party started questioning, then there were some revelations about it. And only recently, if you look at the 30 billion loan for Gaisuku,
bond.
To date, Gaisuku don't know, or they don't have a plan as to how this 30 billion will be spent. Neither the Minister of Agriculture or the Ministry of Agriculture don't have a plan as to how this 30 billion will be spent.
But the scandal in that is that the person who helped to organize the bond has already been paid significant sums. And that person is the relative of a very senior government minister. So the accumulation of the bond and how it was the syndicated bond, that person has been paid millions. Money, Gaisuku is still struggling. The money is not expended. We have to start paying interest on that money, and nothing is happening. So it was just an act to make sure somebody who could get that bond arranged, get their millions, and they go, and Gaisuku is still in the state period.
On that note, I just want to come in, because another pillar of good governance is good leadership. and the ability to ensure that you're providing the qualities, you're providing the plans to the people you're leading to ensure that things are going in a certain direction. What can you say about the leadership that this government has put forward for the country in terms of steering us to where they thought that we were supposed to go?
I would just simply say, is there a government? When last did you hear a statement or a policy direction from the government? The president is absent. The prime minister is almost silent. We haven't heard from the minister of foreign affairs because he's a dual citizen. We have learned that the cabinet met, but the minister of state did not show up. We're not hearing anything from government. It is almost like if there are non-existent. This government is in shambles. They were defeated. They were fallen. They behaved like the bullies in the schoolyard braggarts. And now they're in shambles because of their ineptitude, their inability, and their whole method of maladministration. I dare this government to come to the people of Guyana to show one thing that they have managed well, or one policy that they have implemented. One time you were saying you accept the resignations of all your dual citizens, they've resigned. Then the same day you said, no, they're not resigned. You write come and say you want to consult with them, and then the next day you have, same day you have another letter that is confusing the issue. They could never ever make up their mind. And it's not a good thing to even speak about some of the other issues because they are so personal to some of them. But at least be honest with the people of Guyana. There is no vision. This country is running amok because of the lack of vision, and it's not even on autopilot. We're just in a free fall.
No. Okay, on that note, we'd just like to say for the benefit of all Guyanese, there must be greater transparency, accountability in all these matters that we have raised here tonight. We'd like to say thank you guys very much for all the insight that you have produced so far for us. But interestingly enough, as you said, Juan, Mr. Edghill, that the government is just adrift and they're doing nothing. So we know that you have 4 members of parliament who are now dual citizens that cannot return to the parliament. So we are not hearing anything from the government. Can you shine some more light on that issue and what is happening from the PP side as it regards to our members of parliament as well that are dual citizenship?
Well, there are 2 things that are happening. The government said that they have submitted resignations. The clerk of the National Assembly, which is the custodian of all records and is the legal authority based upon the Constitution, have said, I have not seen any such resignations. On our side, I think what our MPs have done so far, they have submitted their resignations to the leader of the list. Because you go to parliament, so you could either be recalled by the leader of the list and replaced by the leader of the list. So when they submit their resignations to the leader of the list, a process is activated to replace them, and at the appropriate time, they will be coming out and the new person will be going in. That's providing that this parliament will be sitting again, because we're waiting the outcome of the Caribbean Court of Justice. They had said they wanted to have a sitting on the 11th.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden they backpedaled because we started to speak and bring certain information to fore, and they've now disappeared off the globe. But we have taken a principled position. 2 of our members of parliament have activated the process of renouncing their citizenship because they are patriots, they're nationalists, they want to remain serving Guyana, so they are prepared to give up their foreign citizenship. And at the same time, they have already indicated to the leader of the list the particular actions that they intend to take.
So the party has also, we've seen recently, they've held several consultations to develop this manifesto that we see here has almost been finished. I would say you're in the final stages, I would say. Can I say we're in the final stages, or maybe? So I want to say that according to the several issues that myself and Steve would have highlighted, just glimpses of what the PPPC's manifesto will be before the next elections, I can say that the PPP has exercised and they have demonstrated an ability and a commitment towards good governance. So when we speak about accountability and transparency and leadership and the other pillars of good governance, the party has really put a step forward, and they're really in the right direction towards ensuring that this country develops, the youths develop, our teachers, our nurses, all of our public servants develop, our elders develop, our children have a future. So the party is really steering this country in the right direction, as it would have been doing before 2015, as it was doing. So
I want to start. I want to start by saying that we will bring vision, we will bring leadership, which is certainly missing
it's important
from the government today. There is clearly a lack of vision as to how to move Guyana forward. There is clearly a lack of vision as to how to get the productive sector going once again without the dependency that they place so much on oil and gas.
That's true.
And we want to say that we would have taken over Guyana in a terrible state, in a dilapidated state in terms of infrastructure. The economy was down, and there were so many debts in 1992, and we would have moved Guyana from what it was in 1992 to what it is, or what it was again in 2015, without the oil and gas.
That's right.
Without the oil and gas, by developing the traditional sectors. So that is something that we intend to still focus on. Regardless that we will benefit, Guyana will benefit from oil and gas, we will continue as a government to focus on the traditional sectors.
Yes.
We have already made pledge. Our presidential candidate, our general secretary has already made a pledge that we will reopen some of the estates. Some may not be able, it may not be possible because this government has already cannibalized or sold a lot of the land for certain estates, for some of the estates, I think Wales, namely Wales. But we will live up to that, to reopen some of the estates and to find jobs or alternative jobs for those who cannot be reemployed within the industry, bearing in mind the Wales situation. So that is one perspective we are looking at it. Also, this government would have taken away the 10,000 cash grant to children. That is something that we intend to give back to every child in the country. The subsidy for the pensioners, for the light and the water, this is something that the old people, the senior people of this country really needs. Added to that, there are a number of developmental projects which we believe can be the springboard for development in our country. For example, this government has been talking about studies and studies about the road from Linden to Teletem. All we have heard about are studies, like the study for the Demerara Harbor Bridge, which was done for $100 and something million. But then somebody woke up one morning and said, oh, we no longer need a bridge like that, we need a bridge like this. So they have thrown that away, $100 and something million thrown aside. And now almost 200 million, if I'm correct, Mr. Edghill, almost 200 million has been budgeted for a new study. So we intend to work on these projects and to ensure that they materialize, like the airport project. If we look at the airport project, that's a scandal by itself, because the contract is for a new airport, not a rehabilitated airport. A lot of people have been questioning us too as to where we will get these resources from immediately after we go into government. We have heard our presidential candidate saying that we will create 50,000 jobs, and people have been questioning, how is it possible? You're saying that the economy is going down, you're saying that things are not doing well in Guyana, then how can the PUP turn back things in just a few days or just a few months? By prioritizing, reprioritizing, by proper management, by stamping out corruption, by putting the money where it ought to be. Not in a Durban Park, $1 billion when you have the stadium, you have the national park. Not in a drug bond, $14 million a month when you have a state-of-the-art bond in Diamond. So we are going to reprioritize, and there's so much savings that you can get from the wastage and all the dietary and the chartered flights and the benefits, the super benefits that the cabinet is enjoying. I'm sure this money can be spent on the ordinary working class people. So this is just a few things that we intend to work on as soon as we get back into office in 2019.
What can we expect from the party directly to gear towards the youth in terms of policy, promises?
Well, we have already, our presidential candidate, who himself is a very youthful person at the age of 38 presently, has spoken about creating 50,000 jobs. That is what young people need in Guyana. As a matter of fact, if you ask any young person graduating from secondary school what they intend to do, oh, I need to get a job to help support my family or to support myself or to carry myself through UG or to do ACC or C. So young people need jobs. You look at university, the amount of people that are graduating every year, we cannot hold them because we are not creating jobs to these people. In fact, this government is taking away jobs. So we intend to expand the ICT sector, which we believe is a sector that can boom and create thousands of jobs in Guyana. Besides from reopening back focusing more on the non-traditional sectors too. But ICT is something that we will definitely work on, and this is something that draws young people to it too. So we intend to invest a lot in ICT.
Okay, thank you for Ms. Edghill. Anything you'd like to add along those lines?
Well, one of the things that I believe that the people of Guyana can expect is integrity in office. Vikram spoke about leadership. Integrity is what you do when nobody is looking. It's living with your conscience, offering yourself in public service, not for the benefits that you get, but how your joy must be how you can bring welfare and development to the people. The People's Progressive Party Civic, with all of the criticisms that people can find and the fingers that they can point, one of its strengths is that it's a working class party that brings benefits to people, that don't just enrich a few, but look, their policies and their philosophy is how they can benefit everyone. The rural women, the Amerindian, the youth, the senior citizens, our men in uniform, our people in education, our people in healthcare, how we could work with the vendors to ensure that they have a livelihood. And integrity in leadership is what we bring to the table. And it's not to say that we wouldn't make mistakes, because once you're operating, once you're doing something, on hindsight, you could have looked back and said, we could have done this better. But even when you make a mistake, it is not as a result of a deliberate plot. It is as a result of human frailty and not deliberate plot. But what we are seeing here in the APNU AFC administration, this is not human frailty. This is deliberate. I need to get rich. I'm a one-term government. I don't know how long the people will have me here. They got a no confidence motion that has been passed. I got to get a hustle before I get out. So if you really go down to the research, and probably I need to do some more research, every one of them, one of the 27 might be involved in a hustle somewhere or another. And this is what is bad for Guyana. Because even if you were doing something and it is discovered to be wrong, you know what Minister Patterson should have done? Come on and says, I did not know that they were giving my husband contract, but I have to take responsibility because I'm the minister and I've offered my resignation. And walk and do the high moral ground. Minister Cathy Hughes, if she didn't know that Video Mega was getting work, but I attended an activity at the Marriott Hotel where they were operationalizing aspects of the Tobacco Act, and Video Mega Production was the company that had received a huge contract. Myself, Dr. Berry Ramsrand, Dr. Frank Anthony, we were all there that night, and Russell Lancaster and Video Mega was, but I didn't know that she was the managing director, because we would have spoken about that before. And from all records and research, Video Mega benefited from contracts from the Ministry of the Presidency in 2017. And that information is going to be made clear, and the amounts that were used. Now, you are benefiting and you're using your office to benefit. And this is what is bad. It cannot be fair if you are having inside information. It cannot be fair if your bosom buddies are the ones offering the contract. It cannot be fair if the people under whose signature are appointed to the board are determined if your husband get the job or somebody else's father or brother get the job. Integrity in public life is what needs to come back. And I would like the chairman of the Integrity Commission to tell the nation if Cathy Hughes declared proceeds from Video Mega Production in her Integrity commission
Yeah,
declarations for the years that she has declared for.
Okay, thank you. And on that note, the operator has just signaled to us that we have run out of time. So just a quick recap. Earlier tonight, we pointed out that democracy is necessary for good governance and that good governance is a pillar of democracy, and that is being undermined by corruption here in Guyana. We thank you, the viewers. We thank you guys for being here as our honored guests in this first episode.
Thank you.
Co-host Juan, from all of us here, good night and have an enjoyable week. Thank you, guys.